With a population exceeding 30 million people, the Kurds say that they are the largest people without a nation. But their independence movement feels anything but unified. Their independence seems moral and just, but is it the best option for the Kurds? This video is the first of a 6-part series about stateless nations. Countries that don't appear on the map, but that are united by having a single ethnic group. I'll break each of them down to its core to help you decide where you stand. If you want to join this ride, consider subscribing to my channel. Now, Kurdistan. There are 4 parts that are colloquially named after the cardinal points. It consists of territory that is now Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. If united, it will be twice the size of Portugal and roughly the same size as Cambodia. Erbil is a logical candidate for its capital city. Located in modern-day Iraq, the city has a population of 1.5 million people. It is one of the oldest cities in the world. There exist many different maps of what an independent Kurdistan would look like. This one is often reproduced, but others drastically inflate its territory. For the sake of simplicity, I'll just stick with this one. The geography of Kurdistan is key to understanding the conflict. The country is mountainous. It's been said that Kurdistan has no friends but its mountains. And some of these mountains are sacred in Kurdish folklore. Northern Kurdistan, or southeast Turkey, receives heavy rains and snowfall. This region is 3,000 to 4,000 meters above sea level and is the source of the Tigris and Euphrates River. These mighty rivers flow all the way down to the Persian Gulf and provide life in the arid lowlands. Close to these rivers are the most productive agricultural lands in the region. They shape the rugged desert landscape and are an important source of energy. Turkey, Syria, and Iraq have all built dams on these rivers to produce energy. A significant portion of Turkey's energy is produced here, and they currently have a massive construction project in development to advance their energy productivity in the region. Kurdistan is blessed by water and is rich in resources. In the Kurdistan province in Iraq, there is oil. So much of it that all of it combined would account for the 6th largest reserve of oil in the world. The same in Syria. These Kurdish regions once accounted for nearly half of their oil extraction. This region also shows some of the country's most productive agricultural yields. Oil and agriculture are Syria's biggest industries, and this makes this breakaway region vitally important to their economy. What unites all these territories, and an argument that proponents of an independent Kurdish nation often use, is that in this territory, the majority of people are Kurds. They speak the same language, have a similar ethnicity and culture. Kurds make up nearly 1/5 of the entire Turkish population, and they make up a significant part of that of Syria, Iraq, and Iran. They are a suppressed minority in many of these countries. But within these lines, they are not. So why is Kurdistan not a country? Let me take you back to World War I. The Allies had just won the war and used this opportunity to redraw the map of the world. The leading philosophy at that time was to create nations that are as much as possible composed of single ethnicities. This led Austria-Hungary, for example, to be divided into smaller countries. Another outcome of the war was the fall of the Ottoman Empire. The French and the Brits took a leading role, and their thinking of dividing countries along ethnic lines would favor the Kurds. But it didn't go that way. In a secret meeting, the French and the British divided the Middle East into regions that were under their control and influence. They drew a line that led straight through these Kurdish areas. It's not that they didn't want the Kurds to have their nation. Most leaders of the Allied nations actually were proponents of an independent Kurdistan. But the French and the British, well, they messed it up. France was creating a powerful nation in the north, and the UK wanted a counterbalance. But their territory was largely composed of Shiite Muslims, who weren't their best friends. So instead of drawing a country along ethnic lines, they included the Kurds in their country as well. because they could be expected not to become allies of the Arabs or the Assyrians. The Brits also suspected to find oil near Mosul, so it was in their best interest to include this securely within their Iraq. Long story short, the UK and France prioritized their self-interest over the ethnic boundaries, and for Kurdistan, that was tough luck. There's of course so much more history that matters, but this was a decisive reversal that now poses a momentous obstacle for uniting the Kurds. Today, the Iraqi part of Kurdistan is autonomous. Parts of Syria are also governed autonomously, but they are not recognized by any government. Their independence movement is divided. In Iraq, the discussion centers more around achieving full independence. While in Syria and Turkey, Kurdish leaders now speak more of forming a confederation. So, in a nutshell, what are some of the arguments for and against Kurdistan? Turkey is trying to protect its territory and its borders, and by extent, the enormous migrant streams that flood the country. Iran has had many challenges with the Kurds in the past. Their country is incredibly ethnically diverse, and they would perceive an independent Kurdistan as a territorial threat. But internally, there are also concerns. Their military consists of many smaller units that are fighting a guerrilla war. If united, they would need to form a unified defense force, because at best, they would find themselves in an unstable region, and at worst, they would be surrounded by powers that resent their independence. They would require a strong defense force but lack organizational experience. Their water and oil would in theory make them rich, but it's more complicated than that. They would need foreign investment to diversify and to expand their economy, but they lack this type of management experience. They don't have the financial infrastructure, and the corruption and instability of the region would pose major obstacles. Not to mention the continued embrace of leftist, almost Marxist philosophy of Kurdish leaders. This could limit their cooperation with some of their traditional allies. The argument of creating an independent Kurdish nation is often built on questions of morality and justice, using their shared ethnic identity to draw new borders. But in reality, a century of being divided has created religious, linguistic, and ideological differences. This could undermine the people from having a shared vision of what that Kurdish independence would look like. In Turkey, a poll showed that only 18% of the Kurdish youth could speak, read, and write in Kurdish. 70% said to have been subject to occasional and frequent discrimination because of their Kurdish identity. Only a third of the Kurdish youth was employed, and a quarter worked as unskilled laborers. The Kurds in Turkey and in other places are heavily oppressed. Their language is banned, and this is what most young Kurds in this poll addressed as the top priority issue. So where do you stand? Do you believe an independent Kurdistan is the moral and the just solution? Would it benefit the security, diplomatic, and economic situation of the region? And is it the best thing for the Kurds? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And consider subscribing to my channel if you don't want to miss the next video from this series. I have 6 videos lined up about stateless nations. If you enjoy watching these videos, the best way you can help me make more is by subscribing. So thanks again and see you in the next one.